Number one is the fact that the 76ers versus the Celtics is really, it's going away. The Celtics have a 3-0 stranglehold of the series right now, and I think it's time to bring out the brooms. The 76ers are going to get swept. Because even with Joel Embiid averaging 30 points a game with 13 rebounds while averaging 35.7 minutes, even with your star player Sixers averaging a double-double, they are still 3-0 in the series.
Welcome to the ChadBurn Show, brought to you by M. Chad Baldwin.
Welcome to the ChadBurn Show. I am your host, ChadBurn, and we are back at it. Another one with episode 47 this week. If you did not catch our episode last week, episode 46, titled Let's Talk Sports, we had on two great guests, Carlo Macarachi and Dylan Fields. We covered everything from looking at the value of players in the NFL, the big contracts going to George Kittle and Travis Kelce, and even some NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs. It really was a great special long episode where we had them on, and thank them again for coming. It really made it special. But we are back flying solo again this week, but we are going to tackle also again some amazing subjects. Looking at really one going to be the MLB. There's been an interesting story coming out with James Paxton talking about the injuries on the Yankees. The Yankees, again, are facing a long list of injuries, and we want to kind of discuss what is going on. Is it all related to COVID, or is there a greater issue at play for the Yankees organization? Finally, we're going to wrap up with a preview of all the NBA playoffs going on, starting with, obviously, my 76ers, which is not looking good, and going all the way to out west and how the series are wrapping up and where they're at right now. Obviously, we're recording Sunday, the 23rd, and there are a lot more games that are going to be played today, so maybe some more, interesting wrinkles to the conversation could be started after we're recording, but we'll go with what we have now and what we're seeing and really, where we think all those series are going to end up. But without further ado, we're going to jump right on in to the Yankees. So recently, as I stated, James Paxton, who is a pitcher for the New York Yankees, came out and gave his take on why the pitchers across the league are starting to land on the injury list. We're starting to see a little higher take rate of people getting injured, pitchers especially and other big players. And for the Yankees, again, a long list of players making it on. In his opinion, it is a direct result of the shortened training camp. Because pitchers were not given enough time to ramp up, they were forced into game speed pitching scenarios too quickly. In a way, the same explanation could be given for positional players. Without enough time to really work their way up to game speed, they are being forced into precarious situations where the risk of injury is high. I think this is an interesting question to ask ourselves, right? Does this shortened season lend itself to more injuries? Are we going to see more injuries as the season go on at a higher rate than last year? Obviously, that conversation cannot be completed till the end of the season, but can we start seeing some trends right now? Is this a real reason for a team like the Yankees, who are facing a growing list of players in the injury list, to say, we can just attribute it to that? For me, I say we got to hold on, right? Because when it comes to the Yankees, and that's the team we'll focus on because James Paxton is the one that brought this up, I think there has to be something else going on. It's easy, obviously, just to say it's COVID, but let's take a step back to this time last year as we're getting into September. The Yankees in 2019 had a record 30 players go on the injury list. That beat the previous record of 28 from the Dodgers back in 2016, right? Let's look at last year. Andujar, the right-hand pitcher Barrett, Greg Bird was on the team, Jacoby Ellsbury was on the team, Aaron Hicks, Jonathan Holder, Mike Tauchman, Stan, Aaron Judge, to name a few, were all on the injury list last year. And what do you know? A lot of them are on the injury list this year too. Especially Judge, who's supposed to come back on Tuesday for the next game, but Juan Carlos Stanton is also on the list. We now have Torres added on. I mean, there's just a growing list of positional players that are continuing to get injured on the Yankees. The Yankees are facing this similar foe of injuries again in the 2020 season. Like I said before, it'd be great if you're a Yankees manager or upper management to say, it's all on COVID. The shortened season is why we're facing some injuries. Of course, not getting the opportunity to warm up and play slower-paced games can be detrimental to the muscle development before the season starts. Of course, shortening the reps before games creates an unfamiliar situation for your body, and not to mention the randomness of the games being canceled last minute because of COVID cases popping up. Throw your workouts, your game schedule, everything completely out of whack. But the Yankees, year after year, continue to have injury problems. It's 2 years in a row now. Last year, with 30 players hitting IL at some point, they had a full training camp to get ready, right? They had a full docket of spring training games and did not have the interruption of their season that COVID had presented in the games today. So there was no excuse last year of a shortened season or a shortened spring training. You had none of that because they still had a regular season. Yet 30 players made it to the injury list. So what is going on? With Torres just being added to the 10-day injury list and Paxton and Britton are going on as well, at a certain point, it can no longer be coincidence. The training staff for the Yankees, I think, needs to be held accountable. And that runs all the way up to the manager, Aaron Boone. In his reign as manager, we have seen the greatest number of Yankees injured in a season year after year. Now, I, of course, am no team doctor, and I have no qualifications to talk specifics when it comes to training and injuries these Yankees are sustaining, but come on. Can the Yankees not hire someone with the right professional experience to keep the players healthy? I know injuries are part of the game, but it can't be games are part of the injuries. Something needs to be done because I, as a fan of great baseball and great offensive baseball especially, cannot take it anymore. Someone just has to help me out. Help me understand this. What's going on? We all want to blame COVID, but what I think Paxton is ignoring is the fact that COVID issues may just be isolated to his case. The growing evidence from the 2 years of injured Yankees players shows that there is a much larger issue at play. From the training staff to their practices, something is inherently wrong for the Yankees, and they cannot rely on COVID as their scapegoat, and I expect accountability from the Yankees management. If they don't go far in the playoffs because of injuries, if something happens for them, if their season is a disappointment because of injuries, I expect the upper management to hold people accountable. They need to, I believe even going into this season, they had hired a whole new training staff because of the injuries last season. So what is going on? Is there some science they're missing? Is there some warm-up secret that other teams are doing that they're not, that's keeping their players healthy? Are they working them too hard? Are they not working them hard enough? Does Aaron Boone have too much of a laissez-faire coaching style to not really get them prepared for the game-like situation? It just seems too simple, like in Paxton's situation, to blame COVID, right? You blame it in the short season. That's obvious. But it's not an isolated situation. The players are just continuing to get injured, and it's not any case of it being like last season they were all healthy and this season injured. No, they were injured both seasons. I think it's just a little too scapegoaty to be going that way, right? Paxton may be looking out for his coaches, maybe looking for his team, but I think the players need to start asking the coaches, what the hell is going on? Why am I not being put in my best position to have a full season? And I hope it's addressed, and I hope we don't see more injuries, but that seems to, that's how it'll go. And maybe for some teams it will be COVID, but especially for the Yankees, there is clearly something deeper at play. To have those players injured year after year makes no sense. So now let's turn to the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoffs are underway, and things are becoming pretty clear for several of the series. Number one is the fact that the 76ers versus the Celtics is really, it's going away. The Celtics have a 3-0 stranglehold of the series right now, and I think it's time to bring out the brooms. The 76ers are going to get swept. Because even with Joel Embiid averaging 30 points a game with 13 rebounds while averaging 35.7 minutes, even with your star player Sixers averaging a double-double, they are still 3-0 in the series. Tobias Harris, their second star because Ben Simmons is out injured, he is averaging a double-double as well with 14 points and 11 rebounds per game. And it's just not enough. When it comes down to the end of the game, the Sixers have nothing. Whether it's mental fortitude, whatever it is, they can't do it. They're unable to will enough offense to keep teams at bay, and when they need a defensive stop late in the game, it's not there. This is a team filled with tremendous talent that has no identity or direction, and this all comes from the top. As Windhorst has come out and said recently, the ESPN reporter has covered LeBron for a long time, the 76ers are the most disappointing team in recent history. From the GM making questionable moves to a coach that does not seem to understand the skill sets this team has, we are missing a lot from the 76ers regime. Say it once, I'll say it again. Brett Brown is not the coach for this team. They are a complete disappointment, and we gave Brett Brown a chance when they came out of the, obviously, the trust the process era, when they came out of the tanking era. We were like, give Brett Brown a chance. He's finally going to have talent on his team. Let's see what he could do. Well, enough is enough. Time has passed. Brett Brown needs to go. We've given him time to figure out. We've given him all the talent, some of the best talent in the league, and he still can't win. I mean, what is going on? Why can't this team get it together? And to everyone out there who says, with Ben Simmons out, Embiid will play better, Embiid's going to have better games, the team will do better, you're wrong. You're clearly wrong. They look worse than they've ever looked. And that is without Simmons out there. I think if you have Simmons out there, you have a way more competitive lead because you have a better defense set up. You have a better defensive team that could slow down the powerhouses of the Celtics, and you have more offensive production. Plain and simple. I know we talked about with Simmons having an off start of this bubble campaign, and clearly he was, and then it led to injury, so he just wasn't ready for it. But to say that this team can move on from a Simmons and just rely on an Embiid to win critical games, stupid. Stupid. And you want to come and take that argument with me? Bring it on. I got numbers, got facts. I'll talk it out. I think, again, Simmons makes a way better case to help this team win because the league is not moving through big men. And if you can focus and get a game plan and maybe have a coach that can get the pick and roll with Embiid and Simmons and make them a deadly combo, there you go. That's the winning. But Brett Brown refuses to do that. On the flip side, the Celtics look like a cohesive team. I mean, Walker is coming to his own with clutch play and stellar performance from the point guard position, and Tatum is growing into one of the top players of the league. When you have Tatum, Walker, and Brown all averaging over 20 points per game in the postseason and playing big minutes, I mean, anything can happen. They are ready to go. They can go deep. When you can rely on a core three like that with bench help from Grant Williams and Marcus Smart, the Celtics really are a team to keep an eye on for representing the East in the finals. Now, they're not the favorites, but they need to be kept an eye on. When you then go across the other series in the league in the East, you have to go look at the Raptors, who are the real, I would say, contenders to make it out of the East here, especially to knock off the Bucks. They're up 3-0 on the Nets, and that one is done kaput fini. That series is over, folks. The Raptors look amazing from their two stars. And no, I'm not talking about Lowry and Siakam. I'm talking Fred VanVleet and Siakam. Both are averaging over 20 points per game and coming in clutch when the team needs points. I mean, Fred VanVleet is just a breath of fresh air. I mean, the guy can shoot deep. He can drive to the basket. Nothing slows that man down. He looks great. And when it comes to getting paid, he is going to get paid. Their point guard, Lowry, I want to add as well, who we said not as part of the two stars, but still part of the big reason this team is winning. He's the rebound leader. So when you have a team that is so deep and complete than most teams out there, and your point guard is leading the team in rebounds for the postseason, I mean, like, what's going to stop him? The team has so much depth, it's unfair. Off the bench, you have Serge Ibaka, who is adding 16.7 points per game, and even Norman Powell adding another 13, with Terrence Davis playing great defense and offense as well. I mean, Serge Ibaka is coming in for Marc Gasol. I mean, you have a seriously two stellar centers. You have a whole bench that can come in and help out. It's insane. I mean, they have such an opportunity to go far this postseason because if one of their starters is gassed, they have plenty of firepower right behind them. You have at least 8 to 9 starters on that Raptors team, and you have the luxury to have them come off the bench. And while the East looks strong, like I said, Celtics, Bucks, Heat, the Raptors look to be on another level, really, because they look like a team, a full, complete team playing well at every position and able to play at every aspect of the game, where it's pick and roll, shooting three, driving the basket, low post play, mid-range jumpers. They have it all. It's just unfair. When you watch them, it's beautiful. And now with the new coach of the year, Nick Nurse, leading them, really, they're bound to make a lot of noise, and I think could knock off the Bucks later in the series. It seems to be a line in the stars. This team is so good and complete. Now, the rest of the series in the East are going to wrap up soon as well, because the Bucks have definitely righted the ship after giving away one game to the Magic, which we were shocked by, but clearly they're coming back, and the Magic don't have a hope. Giannis right now is averaging 31 points and 16 boards and showing why this team is so deadly with him leading it. I mean, I like the Celtics, as I mentioned before, but in all honesty, the matchup to watch really is going to be the Bucks and Raptors, and that's the series I can't wait for. Because you have a Bucks team that still is pretty deep. They have a lot of talent out there. Giannis is obviously the focus of it, but you're going to have a team that doesn't play defense so well on the perimeter that's going to have to take on a Raptors team that can shoot deep, can take it down low. I mean, the Bucks are going to have to really adapt their defense to play to the Raptors level. Because while the Raptors are going to have some trouble containing Giannis, as any team in the league does, the Raptors still have all the variables on the offensive side that can keep them either pushing the tempo, playing great half-court basketball. No matter what the scenario is, the Raptors are going to be able to score. And can the Bucks keep up with that, or can the Bucks provide any defensive stops to really slow the Raptors down? And I don't see that's going to happen. Again, great coaches going at each other. We'll see. Now, my darling Heat, who are my dark horse, who I really thought they could be the ones coming through, are coming in strong as well. They're 3-0 against the Pacers and seemingly cruising to the finish line of this series. Now, the shooting from deep has been the key for this team. If Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero can continue to space the floor out with incredible deep shooting, then Butler is going to continue to have his way in the paint and having access to every lane he wants to hit. Not to mention throwing Bam Adebayo in there. When you have all those threes going on, Adebayo is just going to be open down low all the time too, because the teams are going to have to be honest and play them on the perimeter. And so Bam Adebayo is going to be having a lone and matchups down low that are going to be so favorable. I think the Heat really can come along with great coaching. I think the theme from the top teams in the East, again, as I just said, is incredible coaching. You got to love when the favorite teams in the East are not just star players, but star coaching. The back and forth chess match that's going to ensue after these teams advance to the semis of the Eastern Conference is going to be one for the ages. I mean, when we get the Heat, Buck, Celtics, Raptors in, I mean, that's the teams we want to see play. I mean, again, I'm a Sixers fan, but like at this point, I recognize the Sixers are not art on the court. Those other four teams are. And it's going to be insane and magical to watch. Now let's take a cross-country road trip out to the West. I had made some predictions and even post social media more about how two of the LA teams may be in trouble with the Lakers facing the Red Hot Trailblazers and the Mavericks taking on the Clippers. Well, I probably was wrong there. The Lakers, being led by LeBron James, are not getting pushed around. LeBron once again has gone into a whole nother level to ensure this team is not taken out by the Trailblazers. LeBron is leading the team in rebounds, assists, and steals, and only second behind in points to Anthony Davis. I mean, the man is the whole team, and he has to will them to victory, and he can do it. Now, having the supporting offense from Anthony Davis can't hurt either. I mean, Kuzma's coming along. You have a lot of supporting players in that team that can obviously help them out. But what you're seeing is just, again, when it comes to the postseason, LeBron James turns to another gear and is just better than everyone else on the court. His tenacity, his desire to win is infectious, and it will make that team go far. I mean, we saw when the Trailblazers beat them, I was like, oh, there's a chance maybe the Lakers are going to have some trouble. No. I mean, they're just not. I mean, I think we saw LeBron James when he was mic'd up saying we're built differently than they are. We're built better. We're built differently. They may not be built differently, but you, sir, are built differently. LeBron, again, I will have this argument. If you're a hater of LeBron, fine, agree with it. But LeBron is one of the greatest players of all time, maybe the greatest, because he is like Michael Jordan in that when it comes to the pressure moments, when it comes to the playoffs, he will pull that team and demand excellence from everyone around him. And his personality, his attitude, his desire to win is what also will get everyone up to a level to play with LeBron James. And we'll see as he goes further. I mean, I think they were the favorites to get the finals. I think they could still be the favorites to get to the finals to represent the West. I mean, will the supporting cast continue to help LeBron James? Can he go a whole postseason again, all the way through the finals, playing at a high level without being totally gassed at the age he's at? I mean, what we're seeing right now, it seems to be true. And Anthony Davis is killing. I mean, the man is at I think it was like 29 points per game right now in the postseason. I mean, he's killing it down low. And so if LeBron can have that offensive support and he can focus on the defense, the rebounding, the game management, the general on the court mentality, that's a big opportunity for LeBron. Because don't forget, LeBron hasn't had really this offensive support since he was on the Heat when you had Dwayne Wade and Bosh who could help out. You even had Ray Allen in those clutch games being able to shoot some threes. And when he had Kyrie Irving, and I would say, the Cavs had some more power with Kevin Love and so on, but Kyrie Irving was the one that really came through for them to help out with the offensive support for LeBron James. So again, if LeBron doesn't have to score all the points, it really changes the dynamic. He can focus on all the little parts that he's so good at. Because again, he knows all the details in the game to be a winner and to win championships. And if he can be focus on that and give that to his players that are a little inexperienced who don't know that power, they are going to go far. And that's really where LeBron James comes through, is that mentality, that experience, that just excellence that is LeBron James. But when we go across the stadium, if we were in LA, let's say across the Staples Center, you have the LA Clippers who are trying to shut out the Mavericks as well. They gave up game 2 to the Mavericks, but Kawhi Leonard has gone off since then. 33 points per game and 10 rebounds. The man is showing why he is an artist in the postseason. Kawhi Leonard, again, another one of those players. When the lights are bright, he comes and shows up. Paul George, Lou Williams, and Marcus Morris are all helping out on the offensive side, adding 17, 15, and 13 points respectively per game. And even Pat Beverly has come through with his defensive, I would say, tenacity that we need, averaging 2 steals per game and leading the team in steals. Needless to say, I think that the Clippers are going to start, close out against the Mavericks, and the LA teams as a whole are a lot more in control than I gave them credit for to start both these series. Again, the Clippers, when they need a win, when they need the power, they have Kawhi Leonard. Just as the Lakers have LeBron James to really lead them, the Clippers have Kawhi. And that is going to be the difference with all these teams, is do you have that player that can put the team on its back and really take them forward? The Clippers are showing it. They're going to be great going forward. And, again, I doubted some of the LA teams because the opponents they're taking are very good, but as they're proving, their opponents just aren't as good as them. Now, the Jazz and the Nuggets seem to be the more interesting matchup in the West. Utah is leading 2-1, but the games have been pretty competitive, with the Jazz getting the better of the Jokic Nuggets in the last 2 games. Now, I think the Nuggets have a lot to be desired in stopping the offense of the Jazz, but I think if they can lock down defensively, they have enough offensive power to get through the next few games. With Jokic, Murray, and Porter Jr., they have the offense. The question will be, are they able to embrace the stage of the playoffs and play up to their potential? I think their coach Malone came out recently and said that they need to have stronger mental fortitude, and I see that. That's really where they're at. I mean, both of these teams are young and aspiring for greatness, so we have to see it happen. The Nuggets need to step up and take on the moment. They have enough to beat the Jazz, but if they continue to treat this as any other series, their playoffs will be cut very short. They need to play up to the moment. They need to understand that in order to be great in the playoffs, in order to be a great team, you need to hit another gear. You need to look at the LeBron and Kawhi Leonards of the league and understand that that's what it is. You need to become playoff ready. And the Nuggets, again, they're going to be disappointing because they have really great talent. They seem to have the cohesiveness of a team that's built ready to win, but it's just they seem to be falling short. Now, again, I don't want to take away from the Jazz, because the Jazz with Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, I mean, they are a great team as well. And they're showing it. They're scoring high. I think they're averaging over 120 points in the last 2 games against the Nuggets. So, again, the Nuggets need to, either be able to stop them defensively, or the Jazz are just going to keep playing high. And so, I'm focusing on the Nuggets in this narrative about how the Nuggets need to get better because I think they can do well. But, we could also be talking about the Jazz and how dominant they're looking in the last 2 games. So the Jazz really do have offense power to go far. Again, both the Nuggets and the Jazz I don't think are beating any of the other teams to go deep into the playoffs. So whoever comes out of this series, I don't think is going to go much further than second round. But, again, this is a more interesting matchup because these teams, I think, on paper are more even. So we should see, all right, so the Jazz have clearly gone far in the last 2 games, but let's see if the Nuggets in Game 4 can either tighten it down, keep it closer, and pull one off. Because I think if they tie the series 2-2, it'll go back and forth and possibly have a Game 7 in this series. And that would be very exciting. Now, the same storyline can be said for the Thunder Rockets, except that the Rockets just let one slip with the Thunder, coming alive in Game 3. Now, again, Westbrook's on the sideline. The Thunder had a pretty remarkable game for Chris Paul, so there was bound to be one game the Rockets to give up, but the Rockets are still the better team in the series. The Rockets have, really, in my opinion, this series in hand. The risk they face is that when they go cold from 3, they are vulnerable. That's it. Their game plan is so built around the 3 that if they go really cold and stop missing 3 shots, teams can easily come in and take advantage. Because again, they're playing small ball. Their defense isn't really built for bigger teams that come into it. So if you have a team like the Thunder who can pound it down low, who have the talent on the perimeter to kind of drive and make it kind of a hassle for the Rockets defense is not going to slow a team down. So if the Thunder can consistently score and the Rockets go cold, yeah, the Thunder have a chance to get some more wins out of it. But again, the Rockets, they have enough talent that if they're not scoring from deep, if they can at least keep the game close, they usually have clutch plays at the end. So in all honesty, my prediction would be Rockets obviously win this in 5 or 6. But, the Thunder have been making it interesting. I don't have as much analysis for that one because I think the game has been a little more one-sided with the Rockets. Yes, Thunder come out, but, again, that's a series where I think when the Rockets come out, because of small ball, because of the limit in talent, I think it's very top-heavy when you have Harden and Westbrook and then everyone else below them. I don't think, they are not going to be a trouble for the Lakers. Because the Lakers, if they beat the Trailblazers, should take on either the Thunder or the Rockets. I think the Lakers dispatch them easily. So we'll really have to see. The Clippers, I think, have an easier path. Obviously, they'll go through the Nuggets or the Jazz. But, again, the Thunder Rockets they're not aspiring to me in basketball. So I think really we should be looking in the other series. But that, keep an eye on it. Thunder still could have a chance. But if Westbrook comes back, they start hitting their threes, Rockets clean this up in the next 2 games. All this to say, I am really loving the NBA playoffs. I think the game's been good. I think even the series where they're going to have sweeps, the teams that have been dominant have been very fun to watch. It's been entertaining. So I think, again, all in all, I cannot wait for more basketball. I'm really looking forward to the semis. I'm looking forward to when we break it down to just the 4 remaining teams in each conference. I think that's when we're going to see some of the best basketball all season. And in this bubble, we have a lot to look forward to there and some great basketball ahead of us. Now, yes, my Sixers will be out, but the storylines are there, and I cannot wait to continue to see how it goes forward. I will be keeping a close eye on the East, obviously, because that's a little more home. I think that I think the East has more teams in that 4 that are competitive with each other. We'll have series that go to Game 6 and Game 7 during the semis rounds of the Eastern Conference, whereas in the West, I do believe that while the Lakers and Clippers, I thought were going to have some trouble with some teams coming in hot from the bubble play into the playoff season. Once the Clippers and Lakers find their groove, and if they win their series, they will be, I think, unstoppable against the next round. I do not think Rockets Thunder stand a chance against the Lakers. I do not think the Nuggets or the Jazz stand a chance against the Clippers because, again, once they get into their playoff groove, once they start winning, there's no way they are going to be slowed down by those teams. They will meet each other in the Western Conference Finals, and then one of those LA teams will represent the West in the finals. That's how I think it goes. So I think the East will be much more interesting because once we get to those semifinals, when you have the Heat versus the Bucks, which should be happening, and then the Celtics, I think it's either Heat versus Bucks and then Celtics versus Raptors should be the case. I'll double check on that. But either way, flip it over. Bucks take on the Celtics. Heat take on the Raptors. They're going to be a great series because all those teams are very complete. All those teams have a lot of great scoring, a lot of great coaching. I think those series will be amazing. And we'll have to think about it too. If the East becomes that competitive and all those teams go to a Game 6, Game 7, the semis, and then go to the conference finals and play Game 6, Game 7, are they going to be more tired heading into the finals versus a Western team that maybe has a less competitive semis round, a more competitive conference final, but will they be as gassed going into it? All those variables we'll have to keep an eye on as we get further into these series, as we get further along into the NBA playoffs. But I'm excited to see it unfold. I'm excited to see what happens and, which teams come out on top. It's a lot of great basketball to come, a lot of great playoffs to see. NHL playoffs also aside, didn't talk about them, but they are exciting as well. We have a lot of great sports going on. It continues to be a great time, even during this COVID dark era, to have these wonderful sports leagues going on and series being played. I look forward to all of it happening, and really it's been an absolute delight. So that said, we're going to wrap up the show, wrap up episode 47 of the ChadBurn Show. It has been wonderful to get back on the air, talk to you solo, one-on-one, as we talk the MLB, the injury issues, the Yankees, the NBA playoffs, all the different series, how they're shaping up, the players to look at, and what we look forward to in the later series. Next week, we'll be obviously having a little more breakdown of the NBA playoffs as some teams wrap up their series and some more are playing the final games. We'll also get a little more picture of the NHL playoffs, where they're at, how the teams are doing. Flyers obviously made it on. Go Phil Flyers as they make it on to the next round. But, again, it continues to develop. It's exciting in the sports world, and we have stuff to talk about. So we'll be back next week with episode 48. Again, episode 47 will air on Monday, the 24th at 7 p.m. Make sure to catch it on all your platforms where you listen to your podcast. Again, if you missed episode 46, it was a great one. We had the guests on. Oh, these are struggles. Folks, these are the struggles when you're recording from home. You have the dog in there. This is how it goes, right? These are the COVID situations we live with. Sometimes your dog's going to make noise. So, again, thank you all for listening in. It's been a pleasure having you on. Make sure to check out 46 with our guests, Carla Macarecci and Dylan Fields. It was a great one, so please give it a listen. We look forward to having you next week. Until next time, have a good evening and good night. Thank you for listening to the ChadBurn Show. Remember to check out all new episodes every Monday at 7 p.m. on Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and all major platforms where you listen to your podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with me and want to send in your questions or requests for topics to discuss in the show, you can email chadburn.show@gmail.com. All episodes have video recorded, which is then posted to our YouTube channel, The ChadBurn Show. Be sure to subscribe to us where you get your podcast or on our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all our new content. You can also follow the show on Instagram at ChadBurn Show and on Facebook, The ChadBurn Show, to see clips from previously recorded episodes and information on all upcoming shows.